Welcome everybody to Lunchtime Live with Colton and Brandon. So basically what we do is carve out 1 hour per month so that we can come together and discuss important topics. One of the last ones that we did was kind of centered around transforming QA teams. A lot of these you can actually go and search them out. We're going to put up a link so that you can go and look in the messages. And you can go to a YouTube page and you can see all the ones that we've done in the past. So take a look at those. And then we're going to actually talk about AI assisting software development. So important topics, things that are current in the market right now. And in fact, everything that you see today is all AI assisted. So both Colton and myself, we're AI generated, everything, all the content is AI generated. So don't believe anything you see. I'm just kidding. But basically, these popular subjects, especially with AI being so popular, it's not like AI or ChatGPT or anything like that is really new. It's just a lot of the tools that we're using now have kind of come into the market and really exploded it. We've been talking about AI for a long time. In fact, you could argue some of the principles are tens, maybe even hundreds of years old. So it's kind of where we're at right now. And in the past, we've looked at a lot of some of the limitations that have led up to AI. Being storage was a big one when they first started with computers, and then also with maybe mediocre algorithms. But with a lot of this new technology, we're really able to, along with the big data, new systems, we're able to create a lot of this new AI, and especially with what we're doing with ChatGPT, it's spanned not only development, but the arts, music, I mean, you name it, it's pretty much everywhere. And we're finding a way to use AI in pretty much everything. So now I guess the question is, what do we use it for and how that's going to be used? So a lot of people are concerned about AI, the dangers, but also how that's going to take over and possibly even eradicate some of the positions and industries and stuff like that. So hopefully, I'm not saying that we're experts at all, but we'll kind of dig into this and hopefully we'll get some comments. So feel free in the comments to make some suggestions or ask questions, and then we'll kind of turn the time over to Colton to get started on this.
Awesome. Glad to see we've got quite a few people join today. So yeah, as Brandon said, if anyone has any questions or input, you can raise your hand through the chat system here. We're definitely welcome any input or questions or anything. We like to kind of put this out as we kind of run through, speak within our own experience, and then but hopefully even just have it be more of a discussion, and talk about how it's affected us personally and within our business, and what we've seen out there in the market. Everything we talk about is coming from our point of perspective, in the sense that obviously at Zibtek we build custom software, so we're either working on projects for clients or we're augmenting the current team. And so a lot of the people that we work with either don't know anything about software development, so these are all like new concepts or questions for them, or maybe they've got a team and they're working on these things, right? And they want to kind of delve a little bit deeper and maybe see what other people are doing out there. So with that being said, we just want to kind of jump in and talk about the different ways that you can use AI to assist with software development. Some things that our team uses, some things that we've seen, and different ways that could be helpful for development team if you have one. So the first thing that kind of is the general one, I think is probably the first item that comes to everyone's mind, is just code generation, right? So can AI just write code for you? And simple answer is yes, it can, and there are plenty of tools out there that can do that for you. A lot of the tools that are out there, like GitHub Copilot is probably one of the most popular at the moment. It will write code for you, but even on their own site, right, they talk about that it's not something for you to just plug in, have it write code for you, and then you just say we're good to go and then move forward. It's a way to really kind of assist you and save time for you. So maybe a developer's kind of hit a block, maybe they're in a new framework, maybe they just need a way to generate some code to kind of kick things off. It can be a really, really great way for that. We've actually seen a lot of people that write like blogs, for example, they'll use AI to write the blog for them, right? And the same thing, if you want to do high quality content, you want to do good work, you can have AI do kind of the guts for you. But if you're going to do it the right way, you got to make sure that you're actually going through and still, as a human, doing that work, fact checking it, making sure it reads well, and make sure it's doing exactly what you need. So what we have found, especially on code generation, and again, if you kind of do the similarity of even writing a blog, is you can have it get you that prompt or kind of get the bulk of the work done for you, or kind of get it out there. And then it requires an expert, somebody that knows what they're doing, to go through, clean that up, make adjustments, make sure it's doing the right thing. The next big one that comes up is bug detection and debugging. This is, again, very helpful. There's many different tools that you can actually plug into your code that can go through, look for security risks and vulnerabilities. It can basically look throughout your entire code to find basically coding standards that you're following that aren't up to snuff. Obviously the AI tools got access to best standards that it can reference to make sure that you're following that within your given framework or language. That kind of falls right into automated testing.
Actually, if you don't mind,
yeah.
We've got a question here that kind of was along those lines. Charles asked, are there any specific tools other than ChatGPT that we need to bring back to our organization?
Yeah, definitely. There's, depending on what you want to do. Yeah, very good question. Depending on what you want to do, there's a ton of tools out there now. The funny thing is a lot of them kind of build off of each other. So some of the AI tools that are out there are actually built using another AI tool. Yeah. So they got to feed into each other. So depending on what you need, there's lots of different tools out there. Like I had already mentioned, GitHub Copilot is a great tool. It's a tool, kind of a standalone. You can also use it as a plugin into different IDEs. I know a lot of our developers actually use it within Visual Studio. They have paid options, they have student licenses, they even have free options. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. Tab9 is a really big one as well. Blackbox is a big one. We mentioned ChatGPT. Those are all big kind of code generation or checking tools. There's also Test AI is a great one for test automation. It works really well with Selenium. That one's one that we actually have some of our QA engineers use themselves. We use Selenium a lot for our automation testing. So Test AI kind of plugs right on top of Selenium and is able to, again, use AI to help maintain those scripts, which I can get into a little bit more. Next is, I think it's Applitools is another good testing one. Functionize is a good testing one. I think if you're looking for an AI tool to assist you in software development, it's best to kind of say, well, what are we looking for within software development that we wanted to help with, right? There is overlap. Some tools do multiple things, but there's code generation, bug detection, automation testing. Refactoring, optimization, predictive analysis. So there's different kind of lanes that they can go into, and each tool kind of specializes in a specific lane, and a lot of tools will branch out as well. So feel free to bring in more information as well, but I would suggest if you are kind of doing a search and you're looking at what tools to use, think about what your needs are, right? Are you trying to optimize your team to speed them up? Are you trying to make sure that their code is high quality? Are you trying to look for bugs? I would make sure when you're doing your search to look for that. Make sure you're not just saying AI tools help with programming or software development, but also say, hey, what's an AI tool to help my team accomplish more tasks or improve their code quality, those types of things.
There's actually a trend that I'm seeing right now that's kind of encapsulating, like Colton was saying, ChatGPT or OpenAI type stuff into another program to be able to make it easier for people to do things like, if you're not really intuitive or a developer and you don't know exactly how to work this program, they're making it so that the UI, the interface, is easier to go in, and it essentially has all the questions that you need to ask and formats to be able to get the results that you want. So whether it's end to end or if you kind of want to be part of that process. And I think this is a good question and a segue into what Tyler asked, because this is kind of what everybody is asking right now, which is, has AI advanced enough to replace the need to hire developers? And I think this is across the board as well, not just developers.
Right. And The answer is yes and no in a sense. I would probably be on the safe side of more just saying no, because I think when you say yes, that means people say, "Oh, I don't need a development team anymore." I can just have somebody on my team say, "Hey, write code to build this application," and then that's it. So definitely nowhere near that. We're very, very far away from that day. But on the yes side, in a sense, is really more like junior developers are kind of at risk, right? Because when you're looking at a development team, usually what you'll have a mixture of senior developers and junior developers. And the reason why people do that, right, is you have your senior developers tackle your tough problems, and then they'll pass all the more simple, repetitive work to the junior developers. It works out, allows the junior developers to learn, brush up on their skills. It keeps the velocity up, keeps the senior guys busy, focused on complex problems and not wasting time on simple issues. And then it's good for price, right? So if you're paying top dollar for a senior guy, you don't need to pay that across the board, right? You can obviously pay cheaper rates for more junior people. And especially if you're trying to scale your team to hit velocity too. So that's another thing that kind of puts some jobs at risk in the sense where maybe you have a team of 4 core people that you need. You want to hit some timelines, some goals. Maybe you'll scale that team up to maybe 8 people to take care of a lot of those tasks. Well, if you can utilize, AI and you can utilize some of these tools, that 4 people could possibly do the work of 8 people in the sense that their productivity and efficiency is so high that they're able to have that carryover, right? So I would say, when we talk about it, and obviously we talk to a lot of customers, we've even talked to some customers that are, kind of come to the simple thing of saying well, can't we I'm just going to use AI to build it, and we've even had some customers be able to get some AI to build a simple tool or a version of it. And so if you want AI to build a function for you or even a simple app, it actually can if there's kind of a smart person behind it driving it. But the issue is if you build that whole thing out with AI, not actually knowing what it's doing or how it works, and you don't have a developer on staff, if something breaks or if something happens or if there's updates that need to be done, you don't have anyone in-house that knows what's going on. You're fully reliant on this AI tool, hoping that it'll always be up and always running and remember your history and your business requirements and all those things. So, to summarize, I think AI can, in a way, replace some developers in the sense of scaling your team down, but it is definitely nowhere near being able to just strictly replace a developer on your team.
Yeah, and I think also, if you look at way back in the early 1900s, I think they wanted to shut down the patent office because they thought every single patent, every invention had already been created, right? And obviously that's not even close to reality. But if we look at the progression, even from trains, right? There were big train wars back in the day, and they were but eventually, they thought, well, maybe now that we have trucks that can take them on the roads and the freeways, that's going to take over. And certainly that isn't even the case today because they're still running trains. So there's going to be some sort of lag. Obviously there's going to be the top part where people are progressing and it's kind of the cutting edge of technology, but there's still going to be that group and whatever that faction is, that's still going to need to produce at a certain level. And so I think for some people that could be a concern, and it's valid, and I think we should look at those things. But there's plenty of technology to be had. There's plenty of jobs that those new technologies will create that I don't think that we're smart enough to control all that stuff, and I don't think that should be a problem in the future. To kind of talk about that and add on to it, Randy, you had mentioned earlier that even artists are using this right now, or even like writers, maybe, right? There's things out there where there's a writer, they've got a story, they're great at writing, they can't do illustrations, right? So instead of paying a much money to have somebody do illustrations, they can use these tools. But there's actually workshops out there and even experts out there that charge money to train people on how to use these AI tools, because it's not as simple as just saying,
create this image for me, and then it works perfect, right? There's keywords, there's structure to how you present that information to the AI. There's ways that you can train it. There's a real technique to using these tools to make them work as efficiently for you as possible. And so obviously the same goes for software development. I mean, when you're looking at AI helping with any kind of field, whether it's art, writing, software development, the more complex the task, the more you're going to need an expert still working with it and training it and managing that, right? So software development's obviously very complex. You know, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but humans are great at evolution. So we find ways to evolve. But kind of going off what you were saying about artists, I read recently that, well, I can't remember exactly the song, but there's a song out there, Drake, I think it was. And his voice was basically taken and created a new song. So now what they're doing is they're offering rights to their voice. So essentially they don't have to work, but they offer their rights. So we're finding ways to deal with these problems that we're coming up with. And I think we'll continue to do that.
Exactly. Yep. And, you know, again, as you were saying, Brandon, you know, it's not so much fighting it. What we see of a lot of people is either people are saying, well, I don't want to do AI. I just want to stay with what we know, you know, just use developers. AI can't replace a developer. And then on the other end of the spectrum, people are trying to replace their entire development team, you know, with AI tools. Yeah. And really, I think it's, you know, just like anything else, it's, you know, moderation. I think finding that happy medium is where you want to be. I would definitely highly encourage anyone that has a development team to make sure that their team is using AI in some way to improve, you know, their quality and their efficiency, but also don't try to use it as a way to replace people, right? So it's really just a new tool out there, right? So instead of fighting it, we want to make sure that we're using it, but not, you know, not using it as a crutch either. So yeah, I would say getting people involved in using it is going to help increase efficiency. So like I said earlier, so some of the guys on our team, actually pretty much everybody is using it to some extent. Some of our guys are using it very well, but one of the big ones that we use is GitHub Copilot. And what we found is some of the people that try to use it as a crutch, it hurts them, but the people that have learned to really still do their work, but use it as a tool, that's when it really shines. So kind of getting more back into some of the other options you can use it for is code completion as well. So this already exists in pretty much every IDE at a simple version, right? Visual Studio, if you're writing C# can give you kind of code completion suggestions, right? Obviously, there's people using Visual Studio every day, so they've got all that data of, okay, we've seen this, you know, function or so this being written out, or we see that you are writing a repetitive task, so they can give you some suggestions. Kind of the simplest version that I think your standard person would probably know or understand. It's kind of a very simplified version of AI is like autocomplete for texting, right? Like providers have been able to let people send text messages to each other for years. They were able to pull all that data, understand, well, 9 times out of 10, this word in this sentence will follow with this word, right? So that's kind of where it started simply, and then it's been able to grow over the years. So intelligent code completion is kind of on the back end, right? Using AI on the back end rather than the front end with like code generation, like we talked about earlier. So again, there's plugins that you can do that you can put it into your IDE to improve upon what's already naturally built in. I think we have a question.
Excuse me. Yeah. Actually, from Gilbert, what are some common misunderstandings about AI? A loaded question there.
Again, I think kind of what I said before is a misunderstanding is AI is just going to be able to think for itself and just replace a person, right? AI still can't make the judgment that a person can do. It still has a hard time understanding business requirements, the market, you know, who are we selling this software to, those types of things. I don't know. I mean, there's obviously debates with people that are way smarter than I am talking about whether AI will ever be able to fully, you know, replace a human and have the same judgment and those types of things.
Can we shut it off?
Yeah.
Pull the plug on it.
So yeah, there's those things, but I think the biggest misconception is that AI can just fully replace a job. I mean, I really don't think that's ever going to happen. Personally, I think in a sense, like I said earlier, it may affect the job market, especially for like junior developers. There may be a much lighter need for junior developers out there. You might see those numbers go down, as again, teams can say, hey, we can get the work done with 4 people. I don't need to hire 2 more junior developers to come do this basic work. So I don't think it's going to replace the developers, but again, the job market, right? Like I think if you go out right now and look for like a entry-level mean stack developer, there's probably, I forget the number we looked a while ago, but maybe there's 50,000 results right now. I could definitely see over the next year or two, maybe that's going to drop down to 30,000. I can see those numbers drop.
I mean, if you look at when the internet started, people were always like, I'm not going to use this, or I'm not going to purchase anything online, and look where we are now. So I think the misunderstandings are on the fringes. Are people going to stop it from happening? No. And are we going to be flying cars without people in them in the next 5 years? No. So I think the pull and the push to do it kind of equalizes it. And I think because of that, we'll have great advancements, but I also think that, we'll have it stabilized. So I think there's a lot of misunderstandings on those fringe sides.
Definitely. One more thing I definitely want to make sure that we address today before we kind of open it up and make sure, and anyone has their input that they want to get in, is always make sure that you're considering security and privacy when you are looking at these AI tools. All of the tools kind of have varying levels of what they do with your information and what they do with your data. So make sure, if you're going to pick a tool and you're going to use it, obviously, if you're just building some sort of application to do some basic functions or something, not a big deal. But obviously, if you're going to add AI into a software development environment or an IDE or something like that, and it's dealing with an application that houses health records or something like that, you obviously have to do your due diligence there. But so at varying degrees, like for example, tab 9 is a good option. They have clear within their contract and everything that you'd have to agree to use, but they do not pull any of your data or information. It's actually something you can install on your local machine. It will pull in data from the data it has access to and it trains with, but it never takes its own user's data and passes it back into its model. So you're never at risk of any of your code or any of that being able to get pulled into the pool and be reused by somebody. So that's obviously going to be a big deal for certain sectors, but just always something to think about. You can't just blatantly just grab any AI tool, plug it in, and 100% be certain that it's not going to use your information or any of your proprietary code or anything like that. So just something to think about, if you are in the search.
Yeah, awesome. Any other questions, or actually, if somebody wants to jump on and give their opinions or their thoughts or anything that we've discussed in this time, feel free to do that. But yeah, I think. Do you have anything else that you wanted to kind of cover?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we've pretty well covered most things. It's an exciting thing. I think everybody uses it, and they're pretty, everyone I talk to nowadays. It's kind of funny. I think maybe 6 months ago, I very rarely heard anybody talk about ChatGPT or AI or anything like that. Like we hear about it, in our space, but now, I mean, my mom knows what ChatGPT is. I don't think she knows how to use it, but she knows what it is. It's becoming more and more common. And again, I guess to talk about even, when we talk about software development, that doesn't always necessarily mean writing code. Tools like ChatGPT and a few of these other tools that use like NLP can even help project managers and business analysts and things like that. We've been able to internally use it as a way to, again, get like a chunk of work done, right? We can take an epic and put that into the AI tool and have it help break it down into user stories for us. Or we can take a user story and plug that into the tool and have it give us acceptance criteria. Again, we never just give it to it, grab it, put that in the ticketing system and assign it out to people. You got to always make sure that if you want to have it do that work, great, but you got to make sure you have someone that knows what they're doing to go through and double check that work, add anything that's missed, remove things that are wrong, make edits. But it's, you know, it's a way for our project managers that are trained and know what they're doing to optimize their work and be more efficient, but never to replace them.
Yeah, there's actually another question here from Robert. How is AI better than machine learning? Are they the same thing?
In a way, sort of. They kind of use each other. Machine learning is more of an algorithm to just take a lot of information, right, and be able to give you, I guess, results or even suggestions based off of the data that it's trained on. AI kind of takes it a step further and is able to do some learning really with it. Machine learning is more of a way to, I guess, to simplify it, machine learning is more of a way to crunch a lot of information and make decisions off of that. Whereas like probabilities and those types of things, machine learning is better used for. Whereas AI is a little bit more for, it can kind of think on its own in a sense. It obviously always has to use information that it's been given. So it's never truly smart. AI is actually, just like anything else with computers, is actually really dumb. It kind of just works in ones and zeros. Even with NLP, when you break it down, and the way it works is it's this huge complicated thing that breaks into several layers, but at its core, once you pass that information to an AI tool that's using NLP, it actually is still just breaking it down into numbers and formulas to be able to then pass it back into words to provide it to a person. So let's see. Oh, Jake has a question. Similar to how every square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very much so. So yeah, the funny thing with AI, right, is it's artificial intelligence. And I think maybe that kind of answers Gil's question a little bit too, is the misconception is it means it's people misconstrue AI as true intelligence. Like AI can never come up with new concepts. It can never create something that's never been done before, right? Like AI will never invent anything. AI can only take information that's already been determined and package it together for you quickly. So,
well, if there's one thing that you said today that is probably the most far-reaching, is that it's exciting, and whether that's exciting in a positive way or causing a lot of anxiety. I see people in two different ways when it comes to this. People who are on the sidelines watching, and the people that are involved in the frenzy of trying to figure out where this thing is going. And one way or another, it's going to go somewhere, and it's going to be, there's going to be some really cool stuff that comes out. I think technology grows exponentially. I mean, I come from I know I'm dating myself, but pre-internet world, and I understand all of that, and seeing how the internet has changed our lives for good and for bad. So I assume this is kind of that next wave of, you know, this enormous thing that that's going to happen, whether we want it to or not, and it's going to be exciting to see what happens.
Definitely.
So,
well, awesome. I think, yeah, we pretty well covered everything.
that kind of wraps it up.
Yeah, appreciate everyone for joining. Appreciate the input and the questions people had. Like Brandon said, we will update the calendar event with the recording and links to our YouTube page that has all of our other talks. And then definitely would love to see everybody here on the next call. I guess before we wrap up, kind of expand, what we want to do is really expand on this topic of AI. Today was kind of an overarching, where's all these million ways to do it. So if you would like us to delve into more specific lane, you know, if you want to talk about more like code completion or testing or using it, you know, more of the project management side, definitely feel free to, you know, post it in the chat now, or even reply to the, you know, the invite that you got. We'd like to get that user feedback, because obviously we want to only talk about topics people have an interest in. So
awesome. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you being here and sticking around.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.